All right, now step number 2 is actually going to have 2 steps within it. All right, so we've got the import of the CSV module in there. Great, we've now got access to all the goodies that make up the CSV module, including the reader function. And that's going to be one of our steps here. Now, before we can read the contents of the file, we need to open it. That's the first step. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I am going to open the CSV file. So I'm going to create a variable, call it file, and I'm going to make it equal to the open method. And this open method is going to give us access to opening a file on our computer. In this case, I'm going to open up that CSV file called example.csv. Now, the second important part of utilizing the open method is also going to give us an opportunity to denote what mode we want to open the file in. Our whole purpose here, part of this project, is to be able to read the contents of the file. We're not writing to it yet. I want to be able to read it. So the mode that I want to open this into is R, or read mode. So I've got a new variable here called file that I'm making equal to this file, example.csv, that we're opening up inside of read mode. So that's step 1 of this next step. The next thing, now that we have the document open, I can now read the content of the file. So I'm going to say read the CSV file. All right. Now here, I want to be able to read all of the content of the file. And eventually we'll output all of that content. But I am going to create another variable here. I'm just going to call it RDR, short for reader. And I'm going to make it equal to the CSV module that we just imported not too long ago. And I'm going to use the reader function. There it is. And if I open up a parentheses here, it's going to give me a little bit of information on this. Remember, you also have that help method that you can utilize as well. The first thing it wants to know here is, well, what file, what am I trying to read? Well, earlier we opened the file and assigned it to the file variable. So the first thing I'm going to pass in here is the file that we want to open, comma. The next thing it wants to know is, well, what type of file is this? Okay, well, it's a CSV file, but how is it delimited? How is that file? Is it tab delimited? Is it comma delimited? How is this thing delimited? So I'm going to bring in the named argument, delimiter. Did I spell that right? Oh, let's make sure. Delimiter, D-E, delimiter. Delimiter equals a comma. So I'm creating a new variable, RDR. It's going to be equal to the CSV module reader function, which wants to know, well, which file am I going to be reading? Well, you're going to be reading the one called file that we assigned here, and it's delimited by a comma. Remember each of those values, ID, comma, first name, comma, last name, comma, and so on. That's it. So we've opened the file, and now we're going to start reading it. And the contents of that file, reading the content, is all going to be stored inside this variable called RDR. So that's your second step. Nail down those 2 pieces. Get the document open, and then start reading the contents. Next step, we're going to start to output the content that it read. So try this out first.